There is serenity in chaos, my brothers. Seek ye the eye of the hurricane. Now I know what you're thinking. North Korea, weren't we just talking about blowing up Syria? Well, obviously you guys saw my last video, and that was posted before the 59 Tomahawk missiles were launched at Syria, the air base there, supposedly in retaliation for the chemical weapons attack. Curiously, though, upon closer inspection of what Trump appears to have done by ordering this strike, only 23 of the 59 missiles actually hit the airbase. Most of those 23 didn't actually do any significant damage to the hardware. Mattis says that they blew up some planes, but they were taking off from that exact same airbase less than 24 hours later to bomb the same terrorists. The Syrian government was. So that's kind of interesting. You'd think with 59 missiles you'd at least be able to take out the runway. But that didn't happen. So it's very curious. It very much appears to have been a symbolic strike. I will admit that nonetheless I was extremely dismayed to even hear about the strike. But after listening to a lot of different people who I respect their commentary and analysis, listening to everybody kind of play out all the pieces and speculate this and speculate that, I feel like this morning I've got a clearer grasp on what the hell's going on here. And it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this video, which is a philosophical axiom of the philosophy that worships chaos as an inexorable part of the universe, okay? We try and create order, we try and have patterns, and we try and set up mental structures on top of reality to make sense of things. But beyond those structures, reality is actually chaos. And, to the people who actually perform magic that actually has real effect in this world, they understand that extremely well. And I think that, I cannot, after seeing everything that Trump has done, there's nothing in me that suggests that he's just stupid and all of a sudden somebody like Jared Kushner just came in and convinced him to blow up Syria. I don't trust Jared Kushner at all for a lot of different reasons, but I don't trust Trump either for that matter. I don't trust anybody but myself and maybe Space Panther, but the thing is that there's all these narratives competing right now. There's the people who were never really on board with Trump saying, see, gotcha, it's all scam. And for the first couple days after the strike, I was like, wow, I guess these guys are right. It is all a scam. And politics is a scam. We've already settled that. But, this whole thing is Trump something different? Or is he just a really clever, subtle play at the exact same shit? Is he a neocon just hiding in a populist costume? But I think what Trump has done here, and again, I don't claim to have a magic ball. There's a lot of YouTubers out there who just, talk all mysteriously and pretend like they have, the truth, and they've got their special sources that no one else has. And, I'm not here to talk negatively about any other YouTubers, but I think that idle speculation is never really that useful. I think if you're going to speculate, at least have some sort of grounding and some humility with it. So that's what I'm going to do. I think that what Trump has done here is a kind of a phrase I just kind of coined, neocon homeopathy. Okay, for those of you who don't know what homeopathy is, it literally means like cures like. Okay, it's basically, homeopathy is where you take a poisonous substance or a negatively inducing substance to the body and you dilute it in pure water down so many times, dilute it down to there's nothing actually left in the water of the original toxin. But the water has a memory of the toxin, and the water itself, gone through that process, is a cure for the original toxin. Okay? And again, this is my optimistic case here. This is assuming that Trump hasn't just turned neocon, because I think there's too much evidence to the contrary that Trump is a genuine threat to these people, the neocons, the establishment. They've freaked out too much for this to be just some elaborate ploy. Okay, that all that evidence can't just go by the wayside instantaneously just because Trump launched some missiles in a militarily pointless, symbolic strike. And what's interesting, and I'll give Alex Jones credit for this because he pointed this out almost immediately, was that Basically, Trump was meeting with the president of China, Xi Jinping, when the strike was launched, okay? He was like, he made Xi Jinping wait an hour, like, and then Trump showed up, he's like, oh, sorry, I just launched freaking 60 missiles at Syria, I'm not fucking around, so let's sit down and talk. Let's talk about North Korea, okay? And I think this is where this is going, basically. I think that Trump may have played the entire neocon establishment with this strike in Syria, assuming that he does not go further with more attacks against the Assad regime. If he continues to do that, then maybe this is all just some massive Jesuit conspiracy and we really have no choice whatsoever and it's time for violent revolution. I don't know. But I still think that's less plausible than going with the man we already know Trump is. There's people who say, like, he's playing 4D chess, like this is all a game. You have to perceive it through the lens of game theory and understand that there's a domestic audience, there's foreign audiences, both hostile and allied, and every single action is a signal that tells all of the parties something, okay? And not every signal is designed to send the same message to all different parties, not to say that one signal can't send a message to all the different parties. Okay, obviously the American people did not take the Syrian missile strike signal very well. You can watch my video or pretty much anyone else's except for like the shills, pretending to be conservatives on YouTube. Like pretty much everybody sang out in one voice like, no, thank you, Mr. Trump, fuck this. And, that was beautiful in and of itself. And I think, even if Trump was goaded into this strike by, say, Jared and Ivanka, right? Like, he is still, like, it's a very big mistake to assume that Trump is just the type of person who can be influenced by one person, okay? People influence him, but he appears to have a very strategic mindset, and even his cultivation of a public persona as a wild character who's going to do anything and so volatile is actually itself a very calculated creation. And I think that this is really what he is cultivating to almost the point of like nuclear intensity, where no pun intended, is because he has used the missile strikes as a symbolic leverage against the Chinese to act on North Korea. Whatever Trump said to the president of China in that meeting, the fact is China is getting its ass in gear right now to deal with North Korea. I was treating the Alex Jones stuff as just, some more plausible speculation, but just that, plausible speculation. Until this morning, I saw basically there was an editorial on China's military, English equivalent news site, and it was basically talking about how it was like, and this is a newspaper that's like sanctioned by the Communist Party of China, and it was basically talking about how China will not tolerate a hostile government on the other side of the river that divides North Korea from China. And it's interesting because it didn't say we will not tolerate, hostile North Korea or hostile United States. It just said we will not tolerate a hostile government on the other side of that river. So it's interesting, and there's this carrier strike group, the Vinson, USS Vinson, heading towards North Korea right now. And, that they posture all the time with these battleships. But right now, the Vinson carrier strike group is heading towards North Korea. North Korea, apparently, according to satellite photos, is ready and locked to do their 6th nuclear test, which I guess China is very worried about. In China, there's South Korean reports that China has moved 150,000 troops to the border. China denies this, but then again, the communists will deny anything that doesn't suit their publicity. And so, so who knows if there's actually troop movements, who knows how many, but what is clear just from the editorial published in China Military Times is that they have gotten the signal that Trump sent them, okay? Assuming that Trump is playing 4D chess or 7D backgammon, okay? Assuming that he's playing very strategically and that he struck Syria knowing the domestic popular backlash he would receive in order to project a different signal to a different audience across the Pacific Ocean. If that was the case, you would expect to see exactly what happened today in a response, assuming that that signal was effective. You would see basically China mobilizing instantaneously to deal with the North Korea threat. And, you know, this is a huge and long-standing problem. The Korean War never really ended, okay? It just ended with an armistice, like, you know, basically a ceasefire. And, you know, so North Korea and South Korea have been technically at war for the last freaking 60 years. It was the Korean War that prevented mainland communist China from retaking Taiwan, the Republic of China, you know, as it's technically known. And it allowed basically the industrial rise of Japan, all right, after the Second World War. So basically, what the North Korean problem represents is basically like this this knot in the muscles of humanity. Basically, it's this problem that's a result of prior trauma that hasn't been released yet, okay? It's stuck, and it's, you know, this is why basically North Korea, you know, their people are starving. Like, they are literally stuck in the 1950s. They haven't moved out of that time period because this problem was never resolved. Okay, and I am not a person who will advocate for military action or war in almost any case. Not to say that I don't believe violence can be used in a just or morally ethical, defensible way, but I think that those cases are very, very few and far between, rare to the point of almost not existing. But I will say that if Trump is really going to try and solve the world problem and move us closer to some sort of constructive, mutual form of world government like I talked about 2 videos ago, this is a problem that needs to be dealt with. We cannot proceed as a planet until these problems have been dealt with. And again, I'm not saying Trump should attack North Korea, okay? But you got to understand there's a difference between force and power, okay? Force is just what basically, you know, actually kinetic force, basically. So when we blow something up, that's force. When we actually send in the troops and they start firing at people, that's force, okay? And it takes a lot of energy to use force. But power is something else. Power is all the things that, you know, all the changes that can be achieved without actually using force, you know. Basically, there's a lot of different ways to have power, you know, but there's really only one kind of force, all right? So an empire like the United States, like the American Anglo-Zionist Empire, is basically built on the foundation that you have the projection of power, okay? People will assume that you will attack them if they do this. So, you know, you don't actually even have to attack them because they know that they'll get attacked, okay? So it changes people's behavior just knowing what another player on the board is going to do. Again, the illusion of power is power. So did Trump make a calculated risk by totally pissing off us, the American people, by appearing to start a war in Syria to scare the shit out of the president of China and let him know that the United States means business and that we're going to resolve this North Korea issue one way or another? I mean, that's kind of what it appears like he's at least trying to do. Will he succeed perfectly? No one knows at this point. But it's clear that China did receive the signal, and they are mobilizing to get this done, basically. China basically said in the editorial, we would prefer that we strike North Korea's nuclear facilities than the United States strike it. Because what happens if the United States strikes it and then invades the mainland of North Korea, basically, and expands South Korea, and basically, through military action, North Korea's nukes are disabled despite the, you know, heavy shelling of South Korea. Basically, they're able to take down the North Korean defenses and basically established a reunified Korea, you know, under the model of South Korea. Then you basically have a Western-backed government at the border of China. Okay, which would not be something that China likes very much at all. So China, that's what it's saying. We will not tolerate a hostile government on the other side of that river. Okay, you know, they mean either, you know, North Korea that is at war with China, or they mean a United States that has basically decapitated the Korean regime and invaded the mainland. So these are huge times right now. This is big news. I mean, most people don't even understand the Korean issue. I had to do a little research, you know, just to get up to speed on it. You know, Space Panther lived in Korea for a time, and So she got some insight into just the whole cultural dynamic there. And there's so many unresolved issues between the Chinese and the Japanese and the Koreans and that whole part of the world that we're not even familiar with. We've been blowing up the Middle East, and we've got a little, acclimated, and, we've got a little education lesson, a little school book lesson on the Middle East, but there's more than just the Middle East in the world full of problems. And I'm not saying that the United States should go and try and solve them all, but it appears that Trump, just like I said in a video several weeks back, this is not going to be a presidency that's going to be perfect by the libertarian standard. Hell no, it's not. And if you're expecting that, you're going to be pissed off and angry the whole way. But it is administration that will get shit done, even if it's dirty. So we'll see what happens in Korea. It looks like China and the United States are both prepared to engage in some sort of action here. Direct result of Trump's meeting with the president of China. And we'll see, again, if Trump continues to press for the removal of Bashar Al-Assad and presses with military action in Syria, then basically this analysis, at least part or in whole goes in the garbage. And maybe it is all just one giant Jesuit conspiracy, and Trump's just enacting the World War III plan scenario that was, set in motion hundreds of years ago. It is also very interesting to note that when the missile strike was launched, that was 100 years to the day from America's entry into World War I as a result of, the Balkans and the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. A small event set off a big chain reaction of World War. So we'll see what happens. Is Trump going to attack North Korea, or is he going to just press the situation to the point where China has to deal with the situation by themselves? We'll see. I think it's still very hard for me to believe that Trump would just magically be co-opted by the deep state, okay? Like, if they have some evidence on him, some video of him doing something really bad, why is it that they waited until now to use it? You'd think, they would have used it before, during the election to prevent him from even getting there in the first place and have their compliant, puppet president of Hillary Clinton. But, it's all very obscure, okay? Anybody who claims to know the truth with 100% certainty better be the person who's behind it all. Better be the one who's actually committing the acts, because unless you are the one doing it, you don't really know, okay? And if I claim to have any perspective that's more useful or more valid, I wouldn't use those terms, but if so, it's only because I spend all day, every day, just reading, and I feel like I have a pretty strong sense of intuition. I'm in the mindset of a very powerful strategic person, and I always have been. So when I think about what they would do, it's not very far from what I would do if I were in their situation. So again, who knows what the future holds, but Trump looks like he's going out to fight a dragon, and we'll see if he comes back. So I hope you guys have a great day. Hope this helped out, offer some clarity on a very chaotic and complex subject. And may God have mercy on us all. Cheers.